Hi everyone, my name is Jason Koo. I am with Neo4j, one of the sponsors at today's AI conference Hack Day, where we are today, where a lot of hackers and builders are creating amazing things with all sorts of cool AI technologies. Later today, I am going to give a workshop on how to use Neo4j's MCB servers to empower your agents with knowledge graphs. Pow, pow, pew, pew.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jason Koo. I am your human-friendly organic data model, and I work for Neo4j, a graph database company. And today I will be talking about graph MCPs, or model context protocols. And if you had a slight heart murmur when I was mentioning graph databases and graph data, I have you all squared away. So let me take everyone back 20 years into the past when great TV shows like CSI and Criminal Minds started appearing. Now, these shows were amazing because they taught an entire generation of humans across the world that the best way to solve complex crimes or complex problems is with a crime board. Now, crime board, as you can see, is basically a board, has a bunch of evidence where photos, receipts, different individual pieces of data are connected through something explicit, right? Like a thread, a marker line, some line that definitively says this piece of information is connected to another piece of information that helps you find the signal in the noise. So crime boards are a great analog to graph databases and graph technologies, which are the digital form, right? So when you put data into this kind of format, you can not only solve all of CSI's crimes, you can also watch my screen go blank and and you can solve things like really complex financial criminal rings. So this is the technology that the ICIJ used to solve the Panama Papers and the Paradise Papers and many of the following papers that they've released. You can also power things like Google Maps and Apple Maps. Under the hood, all the data for various points is stored in a graph. And every algorithm for finding shortest path from A to Z is a graph algorithm. So when you have that data as a graph, you can do these calculations very quickly. And lastly, supply chains, right? Like, so any major company that has any sort of products, whether it's physical or digital, has this very long chain of data, right? You have everything from parts and vendors to the products, to the warehouses, to the customers, and even after the product is purchased, right? You have comments and replies, people's feelings and recommendations for those products. So supply chain is a great example of where to put, of why graph is a good place for that kind of data. Okay, so real quickly, IKEA, right? Really famous furniture store, basically redefining contemporary furniture. Now, we have a mock data set of IKEA furniture that you can use to kind of get familiar with knowledge graphs and Neo4j with. Okay, so this QR code that I've got up here is the same, goes to the same resource page you can find on hackersquad.io. But if you happen to have some trouble logging in, you can go directly with this. That will go to a repo that has this sample data in there. Also has some other resources, so definitely go check that out. Okay. So what I'm going to do is show you some of the things you can do when you have data that's moved into a graph database just using Claude Desktop. Okay, so just to save some time, I'm pulling up a previous conversation I had with Claude. Let's make this a little bigger. Boop. Okay, so I asked Claude from this mock data set, which products are most liked by customers? And it looked at the database and then decided, okay, this bed, nightstand, and sofa are the top 3 products that people like based on their comments to those products after purchasing it. Okay, great. You can do this actually with a vector database. This is a nice solid start. So next thing I asked, which is a much more complicated question, is which are the most cost-efficient products by cost and lead time? So, right, so which products are business-wise the best products based on that entire history of supply chain and number of purchases and the margin for purchasing those products. So this took Claude a little while, had to check the data quite a bit, but it found that this Gothenburg table is the most efficient for the business, right? Most revenue per day, Cost efficiency is really good, fast delivery times, and the parts complexity is very low. So great, right? Super business efficient. Now, if you remember, when I asked earlier what are the most loved products, that table actually showed up in the products to avoid category. So even though this table is the #1 product that our fake IKEA should sell, actually, it's probably not the best one to kind of market because it's so unloved by users. Okay, so the next question I want to ask is, which is the most business efficient product that is also liked by customers? Claude goes through reading through the database again and comparing all the data, and it comes up with the Uppsala sofa, which was the #3 most liked and the #3 most cost-efficient product, right? So this is an example of the type of insights and, well, I guess there's no better word than insights, right? It's interesting information you can get from a knowledge graph that you can then pass to agents to do more interesting analysis or complex projects with. Okay, so this is what you can do with the data. To get started with Neo4j, we have a couple options. We've got Aura, which is our hosted instance. So if you go to neo4j.com, you can spin up a free Aura instance, or if you've got a credit card handy, you could purchase a professional or business critical version and get persistent databases up and running. We also have a local app that you can run Neo4j instances with. Just download Desktop 2. It's the second version that came out earlier this year. Again, that QR code goes to the webpage where you can download these items. The last item I'm going to mention is Sandbox. So Neo4j Sandbox allows you to spin up pre-populated databases and also blank databases. So if I go to the website here, you can see up here top, we've got like a movies database, some geolocation, some data from the ICIJ, crime investigation. So all sorts of data that you could just spin up and immediately start playing with. But if you wanted to start with a blank one, we have two options here. One is standard Neo4j database, and the other includes graph data science. I know there's a few folks in the audience, a few hackers who are aware of graph data algorithms. Like, so if you're aware of those, you can spin up this instance and you can run those algorithms right on the database data. Okay, now, okay, so the last thing we're going to do is just show you how to get started with MCP on Visual Studio Code, which actually I imagine most folks probably already know how to do, because I think Dylan kind of did that earlier. Anyways, I'll just walk through this real quickly, and then we'll move on from there. Visual Studio Code. Sorry if my voice keeps moving, because I move around a lot. I'm having a hard time standing still. Okay, so this is Visual Studio Code. If you want to add MCP servers to Visual Studio Code, there are actually a couple ways. One of the easiest is to add a hidden folder, .vscode. So I can zoom in here. Nope, can't zoom in. And then you add a mcp.json file. Now in this JSON file, I'll close this out here, you can just drop in the same sort of MCP configurations you would find for any MCP server. So if you go to Neo4j's MCP Cypher repo, click on Neo4j Cypher. If you scroll down to the middle here, you can see there's a listing here. Just copy all this and then paste it into Visual Studio Code here, and then replace with your Neo4j credentials from the sandbox or any other instance. One thing to note with Visual Studio Code is that their primary key is just servers versus something like Claude, which would be MCP servers with a capital S, which is the case for, I think, all other ADEs and IDEs, but something to be aware of with Visual Studio Code, because that will hang it up. Okay, and so once you've got that connected, you could do something like, you can start adding in data, either synthetic data, or if you have files, you could just drop them in. So here I'm just going to create some synthetic data. Oh, you know what? I should show you a running database first. Yes. So this is that earlier example where I was showing Claude going through the mock IKEA data. This is what the data looks like using Neo4j's visualization tool. So here you can see if we dive in, we can see we have, I think this is assembly, or no, this is furniture. So this is one of the products, and you can see the relationships it has with all the various parts, and you could even visually walk through the parts. Move. Normally you can do this. So you can walk through the parts. Yeah. You can walk like so from the product to the vendor and even to customers who bought it. Okay, so go back here. So here I'm connecting to a local instance. I'm going to connect to a different local instance. Oh. Now this should be empty. Oh, no, I preloaded this already. Okay. Well, in that case, so this data I had loaded manually, not using an MCP server. And if you wanted to do that, it would look something like this. We have an import tool where you could add a bunch of CSVs here on the left, and then you can start adding in nodes manually. So here, you could add one for a product, and then connect this to a file, products, import all the data, and then I know that assembly is equal to a product. Assembly ID to product ID. And just like that, you can set up a kind of an import schema, and then you click run, and you will get a database that looks like this. And it might look better if I show you all the relationships. So here we've got clusters of different products. Okay, so that is how you can get started with MCPs and Neo4j's graph database. If you have any questions, come find me. You can also post in the Discord channel. Otherwise, just look for anyone wearing a Neo4j t-shirt, and we will answer all of yours life's most difficult questions. All right, thank you.